Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Talk Thursday. It's been months since the Supreme Court extended the status quo anti-order on the controversial reproductive health law, freezing the implementation for more than a year now of the RH law. That law took nearly 14 years to pass through Congress. That law aims to require reproductive health education in public schools, provide information on contraception methods, among other things. Advocates say it will help prevent a rise in maternal deaths, but critics say the law violates the right to life. Joining us today are representatives from both sides of this debate, Likaan co-founder Junis Melgar and Archbishop Emeritus Oscar Cruz. Melgar co-founded Likaan, a group advocating women's rights and empowerment. Archbishop Cruz is the former judicial vicar of the Catholic Bishops' Conference in the Philippines. Thank you both of you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So we've been having this debate forever.
Yes.
Well, I guess let me ask first from Likaan, pushing forward. What is at stake?
Well, women's lives, no less. And when women's lives are lost, their family loses a pillar in the family, and then poor families especially. So there is a lot to lose in terms of life, in terms of the future of children. I think, and when women are lost, society loses a lot.
And Bishop Cruz, for you, what's at stake?
Frankly, it is the dignity of the human body and also the sacredness of human sexuality. I'm afraid that with this legislation, we have becoming more and more less appreciative of our persons as man and woman, and therefore, in a way too, we become less impressed by the fact that human sexuality is the source of life. I feel sad when I have these thoughts, but these are the thoughts that come to mind. They may not be right, they may not be true, but you asked me and I answered you.
No, it's great, sir. Junis, your reaction to Bishop Cruz's? Is there a problem with the way we're looking at sex as a society with this law?
I think there's a problem if we look at sex in a bad way, that people are ashamed about raising sex, because for many couples, especially poor couples, sexual satisfaction is the only thing they have in life, and if you deprive that, actually it's like denying their right to joy, also their right to enjoy each other, their right to express themselves in meaningful ways, in ways that actually add to the dignity of each other. And I feel that there is sexuality that's very positive, and that's been called by Desmond Morris as the cementing the pair bond, anthropologically. But I think the Catholic Church is obsessed with a bad side of sexuality, which is sexual exploitation. And those are two very different things. And I think we should be very clear about that, because I think we are all in agreement that sexual exploitation is harmful to the dignity of women and children. There's no debate about that. But it's about this sexuality that's very important, and I think even Catholic teaching has something about sexuality that is directed to God. Di ba? May ganon, Bishop?
Sacred.
Sacred.
They call it sacred.
Yes. So there is that part, and I think that's more common, whether you're a married couple and even young people, that sexuality is looked at positive, that there is a positive side to sexuality. We are worried about sexual exploitation, we are worried about disease,
right.
We are worried about unintended pregnancy, but that could only come if we have a sober discussion about what sexuality and the many meanings of sexuality.
And Bishop Cruz, your response?
When I said it is demeaning the human person and human sexuality, what I wanted to say was, with the RH law, whatever happens to it before the Supreme Court, all of a sudden, sex became dangerous.
Why is that, sir?
And the reason is because now there is safe sex. Formerly, they all say sex is sex. But now there is a safe sex, and ergo, sex is dangerous, which is not, to me, a reality. Sex is a blessing. No? But as far as the matter of looking at sex with negativism, frankly, I don't think it goes to this extent. The difficulty with the RH law is it separates the sarap from the hirap. It separates, you get the rights, but the obligations never mind. And I think this is not only, I'm not talking about faith, neither morals, I'm just talking about ethics. Rights and obligations go together. And to call sex safe because we use contraceptives is, as I said, demeaning. No? Why would sex be all of a sudden dangerous? But in fact, it is sex. It is.
Bishop, where do you separate health from religion? Is there
No.
any?
No. As far as the church is concerned, health is a blessing. No? Health is not only an attribute but also a grace, and therefore it should be preserved. That's why it is against suicide, no? Which is the ultimate termination of health. But at the same time, I'll go a little up now, huh?
Please.
Because for one thing, I think my mother and my father, they were married, they had sex, and here I am. If they were born these times, I might not be around anymore. So I thank them that in those times, for one thing, they look at sex differently, and for another thing, there is no such thing as population control. Okay. But aside from that, I would like to think that the church teaches, which is, I know it's sublime, it's going a little up, no? Although I would like to stay.
No.
But
I mean,
the church, according to the scriptures, created man to the image of God, no? And here you are playing with your body, taking what pleasures you can get from it, and everything else never mind. And to me, that is belittling this God's image in a person.
I think sexual satisfaction is better than sexual pain. For example, when somebody coerces you, forces you, rapes you, I think it's better that it's responsible sexuality, so that you know exactly what the consequences would be, that there might be a baby could result from the sex, and that you need to think of the future of this little thing, whether you can afford to feed, school, etc. And I think we need to realize that many people have different sexual behaviors. That it's very easy to say this is the measure that you should not have sex if you don't want to have children, etc. And I know that there are people that do that, but there are maybe lots of people too that are not able to do that. And what do we do with these people who have, as you mentioned, dangerous consequences like HIV/AIDS, like unintended pregnancy, like a pregnancy that could ruin a young person's chances at school, at an education, at a good opportunity, life opportunity. So I think we need to balance I think we need to come down to earth, Bishop, and look at the different sexual behaviors, and probably also not condemn people and actually assist people that need information and services.
This your conversation has already triggered a lot of questions coming in from social media. But go ahead, Bishop, please.
Definitely, on ground reality, human sexuality is supposed to be an enjoyable medium, no?
Yes.
For men and women, especially for married men and women. And it is never, I think, the intention of any ethical or moral principle to deny this. The only difficulty is when you started precisely saying that when the children are fewer, necessarily they become better. And therefore, the less children you have, the more assured you are of the sound growth, education, etc. of the children. By the way, the church never says, and I mean church here, the Catholic Church. The church never says that have all the children you want, no, and God will provide. No. The church never says be irresponsible. No? Go ahead, multiply and fill the earth, etc., etc. No, the church says, wait a moment. You should have the children you can only afford to feed and to educate and to form.
Yes.
That is the responsible parenthood phrase. Have only what you can really rear, upbring, educate, etc., etc. Be responsible, please. And therefore, if a man and a woman, married or otherwise, they have having children practically every day of the week, so to speak. This is not something that the Catholic faith will clap, you know. And there is one particular reality here that has to be emphasized. It is the reality of, I think I also mentioned it before. We are not allowed to separate rights and obligations. That's why in the Philippines, at least, I see a lot of rallies about human rights, you know? But I haven't seen one about human obligations. Up to now, I'm waiting. And so, to rallies, okay, I go to rallies myself, no? But the rallies are about our rights. The obligations we're quiet about.
What are you saying about obligations? What precisely are you saying? That there is...
For every right, there is a corresponding obligation.
I mean, the limits of the rights, right? Or what you need to do for that?
But that every right, for example, my right to life, it goes with my obligation to keep my health and not to take drugs, etc., etc.
And in your view, Bishop, not having the RH law is actually good for health?
I do not think so. It is not really a yes or no thing, no? I'm just, what was mentioned here, the promiscuity that has come in from foreign, well-developed countries has crept in, no? This is the source of the AIDS virus thing. It is not really because of sex itself, but it is not an effect. It is an effect, not a cause.
Yes. So Bishop, so it's really the decaying values, the decaying morals you're concerned about. But let me put it in a different context now. I mean, the RH law was passed the year that Pope Francis took over, and globally we're seeing that Pope Francis actually is pushing forward a resurgence, at least, of faith, a different way of looking at it. He recently actually asked the church in each of the countries to go back and talk to their flock. Well, first of all, has Pope Francis had any impact on the thinking in the Catholic Church?
Oh, yes.
How would you quantify that for the?
To me, it's a blessing, and to me, I consider him that frank that I myself I get hit whenever he talks, and the reformation of the Vatican Curia or office is on hand, but that is beside the point.
Yes.
Pope Francis was saying or said this: please, there are so many other things that, in short, there are so many problems in the world. Why, for heaven's sake, will the church seem to be focused on population control? Why should the church be focused why is it that the church is focused on married priests or not? No, he did not say that there should not, that population control is okay. See, he only said there are other concerns.
Yes.
Don't put all your efforts and your time in that particular item. Open yourselves and see. So talk to the people,
yes,
and see what is there.
But do you think, Bishop, that the church is out of touch with the youth, with this generation?
I am going to talk, perhaps, in such a way that my fellow priests and bishops will condemn me later on after this program.
No, they will appreciate you more, Bishop.
It goes this way. I talk of the Catholic faith, no? Okay, because that is the only one I
Yes.
know better, hopefully. There are two ways that the Catholic faith has teachings that comes from the gospel, and the teachings that should be proclaimed, the teachings that should be practiced. Okay, the first is teachings about man and God, meaning to say that God is omnipotent, lovable, divine, forgiving, etc., etc. There is heaven, there is hell, whatever, and that there is fiesta, there is procession, etc. That is the easiest thing to preach about.
Okay.
Very convenient. You do not step on anybody's toes. That we will have a fiesta, that we will have a devotion, etc., etc. That is the perpendicular thing. And most of us are there. Especially the so-called charismatic. And it is a part of the Catholic faith. The perpendicular relationship, man and God, is a part of the Catholic. You cannot but preach this. But you do not only stay here.
Yes. So you're saying.
So there is another, which is the horizontal. It's man to man. And when it's man to man, the church has a social teaching. By the way, the social teaching of the church is the best kept secret in the world.
Why do you say that?
Because the priests and bishops do not study it. That's why now I'm making an abbreviation, but it seems it's becoming longer than the original. So, that is the horizontal, no, man to man.
Yes.
And when I say the other one is love God, the other one is love man. Love man does not only mean to say that you feed him when he's hungry, no, you clothe him when he's naked, etc., etc. When his rights are being trampled upon, you better talk. When his taxes are being stolen, you better talk.
Which Pope Francis is actually doing globally. Yeah.
When for example, lives are being wasted, and there is war here and there, you better talk. And that is where you get enemies.
Oh, yes.
It seems interesting. Junius,
I was just going to say that actually many enlightened Catholics here have thrown their necks on the line.
Yes.
Because the minority position is so anti-RH. And yet, you have groups from Ateneo, groups from De La Salle who actually say this RH law is very much in keeping with Catholic teachings, Vatican II. I'm not a very good Catholic
It's
bishop,
okay.
but yes.
but most probably you're a better person than I am.
Yes, but the God's compassion for poorest,
Yes.
God's compassion for women. I think that was what the RH law wanted to embody also.
So let's talk about this in terms of the public, what the public wants. The Pope Francis actually said, go and talk to the flock. So Pope Francis in his last statement actually talked about views of contraception.
Yes.
And interestingly, globally, it was at 78% favored contraception.
Yes.
And the surveys here in the Philippines seem to put Filipinos around that same, but lower slightly at 75%.
Yes.
How do you then, Archbishop, you take a position against this? The easy thing is to say the crowd is wrong, that the group is wrong, but is that not listening to your flock?
To me, the explanation, rational, no, logical explanation about this difference is that the Filipino culture and tradition are quite deeply rooted, such that influences from foreign countries with foreign tradition and culture, they will have their effect, but not as fast and as vast as they would like it to be. I do not know if time will come that we will lose the Catholic faith. I'm no prophet.
Oh, I don't think we have that. The Philippines is still Asia's largest Roman Catholic
Yes,
nation.
and whatever, but I do not have the vision about what will happen. I'm just saying that I'm trying to explain what you said, that it's the percentage here is lower.
Actually, Bishop, that there's still a large majority of Catholic Filipinos who support contraception.
Yes.
And struggle with the teachings of the church. How?
But there are more. But by the way, one thing difficult with surveys and asking questions is that the difference between how the faith is practiced in the provinces, in areas which are far from the metropolitan, and those that are here around in Metro Manila, etc., etc. I do not know how to remedy that. I'm just saying that the thinking in Metro Manila is quote-unquote progressive. I'm not saying that the thinking in the provinces is retrogressive, no. I'm just saying here that that there is more receptive of foreign culture, no. So, in short, what I'm trying to say is that definitely there is the Ateneo, there is the La Salle, there are organizations, and that is understandable because this issue is not a dogma.
Yes.
Okay, thank God. It's not a dogma yet. So, while the church teaching is like that, and while accepting it according to the church is good because it is a teaching that she has. But if there are people who are against it, I do not think they'll go to Hades automatically. I'm not saying that let's all shout hallelujah. I'm just saying that I would still go with the teaching, no? Up to now.
Have you had any doubts, Bishop?
No. And I do not know if I'm revealing too much of myself.
Please.
There was a time when I was a priest about 10, 20 years, and I said, will I become, if I have another life, would I become a priest again? And I could not answer because marriage is a very wonderful reality. And after some time, I said, no, I'll become a priest again. Because it's so difficult to have a married life, to live it accordingly, to be responsible for it, because you're answerable for so many, no? The companion, the wife or the husband, the children born, etc. While we live alone, we die alone, we eat alone. If we are hungry, we are alone. And it is less, how do you call that? Less pesante, less heavy, less...
Except you take your entire flock with you.
Again?
What you take your entire flock with you. What you think influences your parish, the people who follow you.
No, it's... I'm just saying that married life is not easy.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, priestly life, celibacy life is easier. Now, so there is this question of the married clergy that was mentioned also in the context of Pope Francis' statements here and there. I was asked, what is your position on the married clergy? I said, no. Why? Then you have to feed their wives. You have to give them money to bring the children to education. And it will be costlier to maintain them. So don't allow.
So that is actually, I think that's the problem, that we have celibates, actually a few of them, pushing policies based on their lifestyle without understanding the context of married couples. So that was, I'm so happy that you're articulating these things, because really we respect Catholics that are, that strongly believe in humanae vitae, that, that artificial contraception is bad. But there's a big difference between these Catholics articulating that, and they have the freedom to articulate that. They have the freedom not to partake of any of the RH programs. But it becomes so very difficult when they use that marginal perspective actually to impose on the policies and to block, like the RH bill, take this RH law to court and really wait while thousands of women are dying and they're newborn too, etc., and condemning people to lives of poverty because Bishop, for example, a couple only has 500 pesos. That 500 pesos will matter to them if they have 5 children or if they only have 1. And it's usually a choice. I have come across very, very few women who want many children. Actually, if you ask them, they want only 2 or 3, but they have 5 or 6. And it matters for them, for their health, for the health of their families, even for their own chances at improving their life.
And this one is education, is what you're,
Yes,
you're actually putting
education,
forward.
yes.
So let me ask you about, well, there are lots of questions that have popped in. So this is a debate that we've had in our country for 15,
Are we
16 years
debating?
now. Well, different perspectives
I am
of
so
the same.
glad that
Yes.
Archbishop is.
Yes. Let's move beyond it, because in the end,
Those who,
actually,
those who are hearing or listening to us can readily conclude that we are partners. That we are
but
we
technically,
subscribe-
it's so interesting because it brings together God, sex, faith, education, morality. This is part of the reason it lasted for 14 years before it became a law. But here's a question that actually is a fact from @Popisunga on Twitter for Junis. Is it true that abortion is legalized under the RH law?
No, it's repeatedly stated over and over.
Okay, and then question for Bishop Cruz from @Team Swangalista, Amy Swanopel. Are you aware that clergy are not supposed to be involved in politics?
wait a minute. I will answer that because I think I'm getting hit. There's a difference between politics and ethics, no? And as a priest, I can talk about the ethical dimension of politics as much as I like to. Because don't tell me that the Ten Commandments do not apply to politicians. And that's the reason why we're having this hearing left and right, because some people are exactly doing the opposite.
Yes.
So when I talk about this issue, I repeat, it's the ethical dimension of politics, not politics itself. I'm not even interested in running for barangay tanod, perhaps because nobody will vote for me anyway. But it's different to be talking about politics and to be speaking about the ethical and moral dimension of politics. And as I said, those who do not talk about the ethical dimension of politics and the moral dimension of politics, these are the perpendicular preachings. They only talk about God and man, and that's it.
So
Between God and man, there is no politics.
let us talk about the Supreme Court. We're hearing different things about which way the
Yes.
court will go. What we've published is that we are hearing that the court will will basically work against the
Yes.
RH law, will take a position against it. Since it's against, I will throw it first to Junis. What's your reaction if the decision is against, overturns what took nearly 14 years to pass through Congress?
I think there will be a lot of frustration actually, and people will be so dismayed. And I don't know how they will look at the Supreme Court that has overturned wishes of people as expressed several times in Congress, on surveys, on the street interviews. So that will, to me, that will be a problem actually. I can't say that people will take it lightly, that they will just say, oh, let's try again. Let's try again. I don't really know actually. I have a feeling that people will be very indignant.
And what will be the impact on society? Will there be any impact on society?
There will be a lot of unrest, I think, on the women. That means because of the status quo, women were unprotected. So women probably die at the same rate, whether it's 2,000 according to conservative estimates, the church estimates, or 4,000, which is like the middle estimate, every year. Mm-hmm. And if that becomes a matter of fact, that we just accept it, the country is not ready for policies that will save women's lives, that would be so very, very sad. I wouldn't know, actually. I don't know how the poor communities actually will deal with it. I do not know how Congress will deal with it, because I've heard Speaker Belmonte also in his statements saying it will be a rejection of the people's will since 13, 14 years ago. So I'm sure there will be a big commotion if there was a rejection.
Bishop Cruz, your reaction?
I've been always thinking that it would pass. And frankly, I would not take it that seriously, these talks that the Supreme Court would throw it out of the window.
I hope so.
I am more inclined to believe that the Supreme Court will say, yes, it's okay. But assuming that the Supreme Court bans it or does not approve of the RH law, I'm not worried. You know why? Because it's all here already, even without its approval. You can go anywhere and buy anything you like. It's there. And right now, there are advertisements in the television, in the radio about this and that and that and this. So, perhaps a formality is there, but I think the reality of the contraceptive mentality would stay, and the means to bring it to fulfillment are all around us. And I think the only thing that will matter is how low, as prices are concerned, are the contraceptive pharmaceuticals willing to sell their products.
I
Junius,
beg
you've
to
been
disagree
shaking your head.
with Bishop.
It's okay.
Because already now there are provinces, there are cities that ban contraceptives on the will of the local chief executive. For example, in Manila, until this time, the government does not offer family planning services.
There are many things that the government bans, but it goes on.
Yes, but this is basic service, and what it will hit actually are the poor. The poor women who want to plan their families in Manila. Where will they go if there are no free? And they're very reliant only on government services and supplies. So that's Manila, that is Bulacan, that is Northern Samar, that is Surigao. So the purpose, actually, one purpose of the law was to actually stop these arbitrary bans. And that will really affect ordinary women, poor women.
Lots of questions coming in.
I do not know why they're going to give them for free.
They should for the poor. Especially.
Whatever. I'm just saying that even if the law is not approved, if they really want to have the reality of fewer population, because that will mean better socioeconomic development, these pharmaceuticals, they are money corporations, So give these things free.
Actually, I think that's the big difference. Rich women are able to control their number. They want the richest women, they want only 1.6 children, less than 2. They're having 1.9. So there's a difference. The poorest women, they're having 3 to 4. They want only 3 to 4 children. They're having 6.
It's because
that makes a big difference if government subsidizes the poorest.
I'm saying give them away free, these contraceptives, if they really want the program to work. What I'm saying is that in response to your observation is that women who are in this second, there is still a second,
third, fourth, fifth quintiles.
Okay, whatever. First and second, they have other things to do,
The richest ones.
Yes, they have parties to go to, they have movies to look at, they have concerts to attend. But the poor ones, that's why they're having more children, because they have only one room. And that is where they eat. That is where the kids also sleep. And that is where the couple also stays. So there is nothing much they can do, so they engage in sex, and I understand that. I'm not saying anything against or in favor of that. I'm just trying to explain how come the women in class 1, A and B, have less children, because
they have many things to do, or they have contraceptives.
Whatever.
Yes.
But as I said, that's why the poorer ones, those living under the bridges, etc., there is nothing else, except that. And of course, that is not a right reason how come people should be that poor and miserable.
We have several questions coming in from
please.
social media. For Bishop Cruz, this is from Facebook from Ikra Olitsak, does the church have a concrete solution about the growing population, street children,
Yes.
child labor, women's health?
Yes. The church for some time now has three programs, no? And you'll find this all over the country. They call it the pre-Cana, Cana, and post-Cana. What is this? Cana is the place where the Lord Jesus went because there was a marriage.
Yes, I remember this.
So the pre-Cana is that when couples would like to get married, they will be how do you call that? They will be advised on what's right or wrong with living a married life, what is difficult and what is easy about it, etc., etc. And in some instances, the couple who would like to get married are brought to a family to live with the family and to see for themselves what it's all about, instead of depending on movies, etc., etc. That's the pre-Cana. The Cana is that after they are married, there is again monthly gatherings for those who would like to. Usually there are a good number of them. And they are told there are also some teachings about family life, raising children, etc. By the way, the matter of responsible parenthood, which is the church doctrine, that you just don't have what you like, no? That is taught in the pre-Cana, the Cana, and the post-Cana. Now, whether the church is being successful or not is something that I have no data to base my answer on. Another thing is this: aside from that Cana, pre-Cana, post-Cana conferences, there are also programs on livelihood, and with these livelihood programs, sisters are already involved, no? Especially in terms of cooperatives, okay, so that they'll have something to do, and etc. But yes, the church is doing something about it. Whether people listen or not, that is something else. The church has been here for so many years, and a good number of people don't listen. But it's okay. But it's the duty of the church to preach the gospel.
To take its position.
But whether people will accept it or not, that is their call.
There's a question for both of you, and this is a good last one from social media. May Tolentino on Facebook is asking, is there a middle ground to both sides? What would make the anti-RH, especially the church, nod for approval on the RH law? Is there anything?
Can I answer?
Yes, please.
The law actually contains the middle ground because there is freedom of choice. If you don't want family planning, you will never be forced. In fact, the law has a penalty penalizing those forcing, whether it's a government executive or a provider who forces the use of contraceptives, that will be penalized. But the law will also penalize people who will not allow the use of contraceptives when the people want. So I think that's the middle ground. There is conscientious objection in the law, so that if a provider doesn't want, she can refuse. She can even tell the patient, I really don't believe, I think it's wrong, la la la. But because the patient has a right to information, so it's not just her right, but what about the patient's right? Then she needs to point the patient to a provider that can provide the patient's needed service. And the RH law has been a product of many suggestions by Catholics. President Noy himself suggested 6 or 8 amendments, including one, that natural family planning should be part of the spectrum of services, that it should be funded, that sexuality education should be taught at grade 6, not grade 5, that the provision that said there should be a promotion of the norm of 2 children, that was deleted. And you have others, Soto, Recto, all the other Catholic Congress people actually put in measures in the RH law. So it's a product of compromise.
Bishop, do you agree that the law is the middle ground?
It has been toned down, no? Toned down really a lot.
Yes.
And there are a good number of provisions that therein that really came from people who think otherwise, Catholics or not. Because it's not only Catholics who are against the marriage bill. 2 days ago, I was talking with somebody about this open, how do you call it? I don't know, open door policy, whatever. That the contraceptives are there. If you don't like it, don't take it.
Don't take it.
And he told me, well, then let us have the drugs around. So that those who like it, take it. Those who don't like it, then let them not take it. And I was taken aback by that, although it is not exactly a argument, but it has a semblance of it. No, it is there. You're not obliged to take it, so it's okay. So drugs is there. You're not obliged to take it. It's okay. There is a semblance of parity between these two concepts, I think, although they're not the same.
My question is, I think, what happens? Where is the point where society has changed, and where is the point where the church must change with society? Or do you think that the position of the church is solid and should be kind of like a North Pole instead of adapting to what?
As I said, the teachings on responsible parenthood and therefore versus contraception is not yet a dogma.
Yes.
And I don't know how far it will open. I do not know how more it will be closed. And frankly, I do not want to predict.
After Pope Francis asked the Catholic Church in the Philippines to talk to its flock, you've sent out to parishioners surveys, and you're doing an online survey. What are you getting back?
In every parish they call a family life apostolate. Okay, and this survey is entrusted to this association, Family Life Apostolate, and they're the ones who will be going out to get the survey or to make the survey or take the census.
Interesting. Your last thoughts. We have gone over. Junis, please respond. We'll give.
I'm very hopeful actually with Pope Francis because he has called the obsession problematic, and I think it's what has driven a schism between majority of Catholics who actually are open to contraceptives or are using contraceptives, and the small, I call it as minority. Not even all the bishops are rabidly against contraception. Contraception actually can be also interpreted as part of responsible parenthood because it's a spectrum starting with abstinence, so couples can actually abstain if they're not ready. But if they're not, then you can provide them a spectrum of family planning methods that also includes natural family planning, which is like the favorite family planning method of Bishop Ledesma. So I think just taking Pope Francis's words, I would actually even like maybe solidify the Catholic Church that has been at odds with each other for many years. My parents are Catholic, but I'm an alienated Catholic because of this issue. But I know that many Catholics are actually looking forward to a more humane, more compassionate view from the leadership of the Catholic Church on the issue of reproductive health and contraception.
So the bishop actually said if people want to put the law, if the law doesn't pass, if the Supreme Court throws it out, he said they could still, the government can still distribute. Why is the law important in your view?
The law is very important because then there will be only one law that allows contraception that will override all the objections, at the lower levels.
Right.
There will be budget because at this point in time we have had rejections by Senator Soto, who thinks that a measly budget of 400 million is more than enough and has got it. But actually, when you look at the budget, 3 billion is required to cope with all the needs of contraceptive alone.
Bishop, your last words. You have the last word.
Dapat.
I have a problem with the overall thinking of population control. No? The moment the people are less, the moment the children are less, automatically you have a better environment, you have a better development, socioeconomic upliftment. And I do not see the necessary correlation between these two. Less people does not necessarily mean more development.
I agree.
And more development perhaps will mean less people because they have something else to do. That's all. Because I opened my mouth.
Can I agree with that, Maria?
Yeah, sure.
Because family planning is not the one and only solution to poverty. It helps families on the ground at the micro level. It helps them to cope. But at the macro level, we know it's not just, it needs jobs. It needs equity, equitable distribution of wealth. It needs a rethinking even of our migration policies. Are migration helping actually the economy or not? So family planning is one of many solutions to poverty.
But there are other linkages,
Yes,
even to
there
say disaster risk reduction. Let's not go there. This is a whole other
Yes, it's a
discussion.
whole-
Bishop Cruz, the social media stream is shifting. You can speak to Bishop Cruz on Twitter. His Twitter name is @OVCruz. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Yes. So you can speak on Twitter to @OVCruz for Bishop Cruz, but there's a very vehement reaction to something you said about the RH law and population control from Beth Angshoko. Beth Angshoko, she is one of the proponents for the RH law. She says, how many times do we need to say that RH is not population control, Bishop Cruz?
Then what's it?
It is family planning, the rights
Yeah,
of
and that is
couples to
population
No,
control.
sir. That's a big difference between deciding for your family and letting government set targets. That is population control.
Well, okay. No.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much. 15 years in, 16 years in, the debate continues. It is obviously very visceral for Asia's largest Roman Catholic nation. We are at the cusp. We've been speaking with Junice Melgar and Archbishop Oscar Cruz, advocates representing both sides of the debate on the controversial reproductive health law. We wait to hear from the Supreme Court. I'm Maria Ressa. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.